Hello, I'm Sam Brentano, I'm Marion County Commissioner, and this is another one of our productions of Marion County Today. And today, I have a special program, I think, things that people don't really know about, having to do with solid waste. Doesn't sound like a real fun subject, but there's a lot of very interesting, important things connected with it. We, Marion County, we produce about 200,000 tons of solid waste a year, and how we take care of it is what we're going to go over it. But we've been a leader in solid waste from the very beginning. I'll just go over it quickly and hope the story will come out more. We recycle everything we can to begin with, and then we take it, we burn it, we extract electricity, we pull metal out of the ash, and now we found a use for the ash. I don't think any program in America can come close to us. So I'm not going to keep talking. I want to introduce Bailey Payne, and he works for Marion County Public Works, and he's a waste reduction coordinator. So Bailey, would you tell us a little bit about your background and help prove that we have the best program in the United States?
Well, I'd agree with you. I think we've got definitely one of the top-notch ones. So I grew up in McMinnville, so not too far away, and then went to school down in California and was in the Peace Corps for a couple of years. And it's funny, through all these stages of my life, somehow garbage and recycling and dealing with litter always seems to be a part of it, I suppose. But when I finished up with Peace Corps, I taught school for a couple of years down in California and decided I'd had enough of California and was ready to move back to Oregon.
It makes sense, but continue.
So I came back to Oregon and was lucky enough to find a job with Marion County back then it was called a recycling coordinator. And my title changed to a waste reduction coordinator a few years back, but I started here in March 2002.
Wonderful. So you applied for it, so you felt like you had something that would apply, but anything in particular really made you think this was a job for you? Get some feedback here. Go ahead.
My background was environmental studies, is what
okay.
I studied in college, and then when I was in the Peace Corps, it was about environmental programs, and again, focused a lot on litter. And then when I was teaching in elementary school, a lot of what I tried to do in the classroom was start a recycling program. It was a real small town I was teaching in, and we were able to get a recycling program together. Started for the school.
Well, you've done a tremendous job for us, I know that. Now, I'm supposed to ask you about an overview of Marion County Solid Waste Program. I probably did lay some of this out already, but if you'd give them the absolute truth.
Sure. Well, as you said, we have a waste-to-energy facility, which makes us pretty unique in Oregon. We're the only county, for that matter, that has one in Oregon, and one of the very few in the West Coast that has made that investment in that technology. As you say, I think we really do have one of the strongest programs really in the nation. We have a network of 7 franchise garbage recycling haulers in Marion County, and they work together collaboratively. So that really makes, I think, our system a lot more productive, because we're able to more easily work with the group. Some counties, as you know, up in Portland, for example, have maybe 100 or more garbage haulers, which makes coordinating the programs a little bit more challenging, I think, up there. So that's a real strength, I think, of our programs here in Marion County. We also have a pretty strong network of private recyclers. Garten Services certainly processes a lot of recyclables and has for many decades now been real active in paper recycling and other commodities. We have other private recyclers such as Clayton Ward and Cherry City Metals and probably others that I'm not remembering.
I wondered if it isn't on our list, but I think people will be surprised the number of different items that have a system through the county, and of course there's other ways to get rid of different products, but would you go through all the things Marion County does recycle?
Oh boy, a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, all the traditional things that you would normally think of, the paper, the cardboard, the glass, the aluminum, that sort of stuff is pretty universal throughout most of Oregon. But we also recycle a lot of things that are unique. We're one of the only places in Oregon that recycle household batteries at the curb. We also collect antifreeze, cooking oil, latex and oil-based paints. So those are things that are pretty unheard of in most recycling programs. And again, I think that kind of goes back to the relationship that we have with the garbage haulers and the kind of the community of recyclers here working together.
I'm going to say something that people will be surprised at, but I was in the solid waste industry, so I heard this before, but truly the only product that pays its own way, that's a little bit big statement, is newspaper and cardboard. Sometimes wood, but steadily Nothing else has any value, but yet we can do all these things in Marion County, and people don't know that that means that the rates carry the whole program. But that's part of what makes us unique is we've looked at the whole program and how can we really move materials and make things work. Could you either verify or elaborate on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a misunderstanding that a lot of the public has, is that, you know, the garbage haulers are collecting all these recyclables and they get to go sell them, and so they're making all this money off the recyclables that we're putting out the curb, but that doesn't take into account all the fuel costs, the labor costs, the trucks are very expensive, the transportation. So you're right that the garbage, and that's part of what makes our program an integrated solid waste management plan, is that it's looking really at the big picture and not just saying we're only going to recycle those things that pay for themselves. We recognize that, you know, while, for instance, plastics may not always be the most profitable thing, or you can pick out a lot of little, you know, different materials that maybe aren't able to pay their way if collected through the curbside program. But you know, we recognize that there's an environmental and social value in having those materials recovered.
Are there any big gaps in our system that you'd like to do? And if you say food, I'll say yeah, but we kind of do it already. But it's one that I worry about a little bit. Does it really accomplish what you want to do versus the electricity you could generate from it? I just throw that out.
Well, it's interesting. The Department of Environmental Quality, as you know, recently put out a study called the 2050 Vision. And part of what they've decided to prioritize are materials that have a real high environmental impact. And so there are some materials that currently we're not recycling, in part because there often aren't markets for them and there's not a processor in the region. It's just economically sometimes not viable. But I'll throw out carpet as one example. Yeah. Carpet has a lot of what they call embedded energy, and so there's a lot of resources that go into making carpet. If we were able to pull that out, it may only represent 1% of the waste stream. So that is everything that's thrown away. But if we were able to capture some of those types of materials, you know, we'd recognize even larger environmental benefits. I do think food is something that there are still opportunities for, though. It's the largest source of what we see in the garbage, about 20%. So I think there's still opportunities there. And then even, you know, we're doing a great job in Marion County, certainly one of the highest recycling rates. But there's some things that, you know, when you look in and see what is actually in the garbage, there's still a lot of recyclables that are being thrown away that could be recovered. So I think there's an ongoing need for education and outreach to promote the benefits of recycling, why it's important.
We've always ranked real high. I think you just hinted about it, but real high statewide in our rankings. DEQ has changed how they measure that. I don't know if by ranking we change, our percentage goes down. Frankly, they're wrong. I'll just say that right off. We don't get credit for the electricity we produce that nobody else does, and they ought to be, because we're really pulling one more product, a major product out of that waste, one that's valuable. In fact, we haven't said it yet, our garbage burner generates enough electricity to electrify a town the size of Woodburn, so it's pretty significant. Mm-hmm. So we'll still rank all right, or how are you? Have you seen that yet, or you seen the recycling numbers?
Well, they just released the 2014 numbers, and we're real happy to see that we continue to be among the best in the state. I was personally a little bit disappointed that we are second by 0.1% to Portland.
Oh,
so we're basically neck and neck with the Portland area. And you know, we have different challenges here, as you know, having been a hauler. You know, we have a much more rural county than Portland, where that makes collection efforts easier there.
Clear to the end of the county, out in those rural areas. I'm proud of that started a few years ago.
Yeah.
Well, Bailey, thank you for all you do. Thanks for coming today. I want to say I probably should have started this. It's a key time in the solid waste issue with Marion County. It's time to renew a contract, maybe grow the burner, maybe look at new programs. So that's why it's important to have you out thinking about and start getting information out to the public of the different things coming up. So
well, thank you.
I rushed you off. There are a lot of questions I didn't answer, but I think we covered it well. And thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're back for Marion County today. As Sam Brentano, Marion County Commissioner, and the subject, of course, is solid waste this afternoon. And I've got a special person, Darby Rancleve. I've never heard his last name, but I've always known him, Darby, for a long time. But he's the general manager of the waste energy facility in Brooks, Covanta. So, Darby, would you tell us a little bit about your background and how you end up here in the Brooks area?
Sure. And thanks for having me, Sam. I was born and raised just south of here in Albany, so I'm a local guy. I've got about 37 years experience in the power industry, and about 27 of those years at the waste energy facility in Brooks. And I basically started as an operator and worked my way through all the positions, and now I'm the general manager.
That's about the beginning, isn't it? 20, how old is the burner? People ask me that, and I always try to do the math. It's about 27, 30 years?
Almost 30 years, yeah.
I have in my shovel as an aside, in my office, the shovel from turning the ground there was left when I became a commissioner, but I actually attended the event on the other side as one of the garbage collectors at that time. So, what's a waste energy facility, and what happens there?
What we do there is we convert Marion County's solid waste or municipal solid waste to energy, and we do that by combusting that material in a specialized boiler with specialized pollution control equipment. We turn that waste into steam, and that steam is used in a turbine to turn a generator to make electricity. We produce about 13 megawatts of power. We use about 1.7 to operate the facility, and then about 11 megawatts is sold to Portland General Electric, which is about enough power to supply energy to a city about the size of Woodburn.
I've been using Woodburn, so
about
I hope that's
8,000
correct.
homes.
Really?
Yep.
Now, that's not called renewable yet, but someday it will be, and it ought to be, isn't that
Yeah,
right?
we're in the RECs. We are saving those energy credits, and they will be considered renewable, I believe, in the year 2025.
It's off the subject probably of anybody
Yes.
watching, but the idea was they wanted new waste generation that was renewable, and they didn't want to count what's already there. And here we are, the only county in the state that has this, but we'll eventually get credit for it. So I got off the subject. So anything else about it?
Well, I think a lot of people wonder, is it safe? And we follow EPA and DEQ permit guidelines. We've been operating the facility under the Clean Air Act permit since 1995, and we operate well under those permit conditions. Most things are in the 90% below what our permit limits are.
Yeah, I've seen those reports, and I don't think people understand that. For just about every possible element that they measure for, or compound, we're not just under the permitted. It's in like a 0.1% on some of them.
Correct. And if to put it in perspective, dioxins, the facility produces small amounts of dioxin, about as much as a 10-acre forest fire. Over the last 10 years, Oregon has burned over 550,000 acres a year of forest, so it's a minute percentage. The CO is equivalent to about 300 cars, what they would produce for CO emissions. And our other emissions are, in the less than 1% of, the emissions rates that our permits allow us to operate
I
under.
might add, having been around when it was being planned, that was the big argument to pollute the valley and stuff, and with levels like that, it just hasn't been true, and in fact hasn't been a significant issue since construction.
Right. Health risk assessments have shown that there's been no issues with the facility in the 30 years it's been
In the
operating.
meantime, people don't understand this either. We take this waste, burn it, reduce it, pull out the electricity, pull out the metals, where other areas, they'll get mad at me, dump it into the ground. And my theory there, if you dump it in the ground, it doesn't go away. It will eventually either go into the air or into the ground and the water at some point, and we've done away with that problem here. I'm not trying to put anybody else down. I'm trying to say that it's a special system that works well. So, I don't know why I can't stay on task, Darby. Could you talk about how it comes in, the amount of waste that comes in every day, some of the maintenance and anything else
Sure.
that go in operation?
We have a contract with Marion County. Covanta is a publicly traded company, and it's a privately owned facility. We have a long-term contract with Marion County, and we receive around 600 to 700 tons a day, 5 days a week, and we process about 550 tons a day. So the extra waste we get during the week is what we use to burn on weekends. Another positive of energy from waste is we're 24/7. We operate the facility
Not like
7 days a
windmill,
week,
is it?
365 days a year. So when you turn the light switch for power, it's there. And in the 30 years, our availability is over 95%. So it's a good, stable source of power.
Again, there's two stories there. One, the first time that it went down was because the state fire marshal loaded it up with fireworks and blew up a boiler, and that was one of those downtimes. And then one was for just kind of maintenance. A generator went bad, if I have it right. Is that about it in 30 years?
Well, those are some of the unscheduled maintenance things that we've had at the facility, but we do take maintenance time during the year, but it's typically about 2.5 to 3 weeks a year that we're down for maintenance, and the rest of the time
You
we're
take
operating.
one burner down each time and keep the other going?
Correct, yeah, so we can continue to take care of Marion County's waste even when we're doing our maintenance outages.
So we've had a program that I don't think was in the original design on metal recovery. So in partnership, Covanta and Marion County, we started doing ferrous iron recycling probably like 20 years ago.
Yeah, it came about.
Talk about that, and then you've added something more.
Yeah, like you said, right after startup, we seen metal in the ash and decided, we should get that out. There's a value there. So we bought some used equipment from, I believe it was Schnitzer's, and installed it and started recovering
Mostly just
metals.
a magnet system.
Right.
Yeah.
And we were getting about 2% recovery rate. The more we looked into it and the better the markets got, there was a lot of material that was being missed. And so over the years, we've installed some more sophisticated equipment, and to the point now where we're recovering around 8,000 tons a year of ferrous metal and around 350 tons a year of non-ferrous metal. We're also recovering the aluminums, copper, stainless steel, those type of things that have a higher value.
Darby, how's that system with non-ferrous work? And it has a funny name I can't even think about as I say it.
Yeah, and it's an interesting process. It's called an eddy current magnet, and it uses rare earth magnets that spin at a high RPM in a drum, and it actually creates a kind of a magnetic field for those non-magnetic metals, and raises them out of the ash, and we separate them that way. So it's pretty interesting. Yeah.
And again, more recycling out of a system, showing the trying to make things better all the time that both the county and Covanta have done. Just a few seconds left. Anything else you'd like us to know about your facility there, your operations?
That just, we've been there for almost 30 years, and we look forward to another long-term contract with Marion County and continuing the partnership with Marion County.
Well, I certainly hope that we can, because it's been a good partnership for everybody involved, Covanta and all the citizens of Marion County. All right, again, thanks, Darby, for coming in, and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Hello, we're continuing on with our Marion County Today on solid waste management, and I'm Commissioner Kevin Cameron. And with me today is Todd Irvine, who is the General Manager. It's a big name, Todd, so I'm going to look at it, Mid-Valley Garbage and Recycling Association. So welcome, and why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and what your job title really means.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me today. Well, first of all, how I got into the business was about 32 years ago. I was going to college and quite frankly just tried to make a few extra dollars to pay for some school books. and fell into the business right at the right time. There was absolutely zero residential recycling going on, no commercial recycling other than a few scout drives and the likes. So back in the early 80s, I helped design and construct one of the first material recovery facilities in the state of, actually it was the first in the state of Oregon, and have since helped and design and construct a few other facilities.
Right.
Here in, oh gosh, it's been about 3 years ago, 4 years ago, I was working with the Marion County haulers, had in the past as well, and there was a position that became available, and they lured me over, and didn't take much luring at all. Quite frankly, had spent the most of my time in the Portland metro area, and although I love the Portland metro area, there's Marion County's home, and this is really, quite frankly, one of the best systems we have in the country here in Marion County.
Oh, great. We're going to talk a little bit more. We've heard something, from Bailey about the solid waste management, and then from Darby about the burner. Let's talk about, you referred to it, I have it down here as an acronym, and I always want to get fined or fine people when we talk about it. It's an MRRF, or a Murph, as I've heard it referred to, the Marion Recovery, it says here Recovery Resource Facility. Would that be accurate? Materials.
Marion Resource Recovery Facility, and yes, the Murph is the acronym. It's not a little blue guy running around. It's actually short for Material Recovery Facility. And again, these facilities were built to enhance certain systems. For instance, we have source separated programs that we pick up along the curb, as Bailey had mentioned, all the various items that we pick up curbside. And here in Marion County, we pick up several other things, as he mentioned, latex paint, cooking oil, batteries, and such as well. But in addition to that, and then we also have the wonderful Covanta facility, the waste to energy facility, again, so it kind of complements that. But what ended up happening is back in, it was in the late 90s, I guess it was, the county was at capacity here in terms of the solid waste. So we had implemented some new programs and the likes, but they were at capacity. So the 7 haulers here, or 8 haulers in the Marion County area here, came together with a proposal and said, hey, how about if we build this material recovery facility to handle the additional volume of material? We can get some additional material recovered out of the waste stream before it goes either to the incinerator or down to ultimately a landfill. So that's how the facility was actually constructed back in 2000.
So the private businesses came together with this idea and financed it, and
we're working in conjunction with the county again
right.
to help the overall system. So again, we have got a really great system in place with the source separated programs collected, the material recovery facility, which enables us to get other materials, additional materials out of the waste stream, and then ultimately the residual or the material that can't be recovered can be burned for energy recovery here.
Fantastic. So why don't you tell us a little bit about Marion County's recycling rate? I know Bailey just talked about earlier, we just got new numbers out, and we're 1/10 behind Multnomah County, but we know they cheat. So,
we are 1/10 behind, but we're closing the gap.
Right.
And we've closed the gap, and I am very confident that this is the year that we are going to surpass. We've got some really great programs in place here, really great infrastructure, and with a little help from our fellow members of the community, there's no reason why we can't be number one.
Tell us about one of those new programs. In fact, I sat in as a master recycler at the fair talking about Save the Food. That's a new program that has been started.
Absolutely. Save
Our Food.
Yes, actually Save the Food, you're correct. Yeah. Save the Food. And it was a program that was put together by Marion County here. It actually mirrors another program, but it basically is a way to basically take a look at how much food we are utilizing, we're wasting, the ability to shop smarter, prepare better, store food better. One of the things that's a little known fact is that almost half the food that we generate nationally goes uneaten. About 40% nationally that we produce nationally goes uneaten. So again, there's a huge opportunity there, and here in Marion County, it makes up about 20% of our waste stream currently.
Right. So if people want to participate and they're listening today, or they want to find out how they can personally help or help their children or their neighbors, is there some ways that we can talk about that they could get more involved and make a difference?
Absolutely. You know, one of the things that we have here in Marion County that we're actually, again, it's kind of unique, is we have a master recycler class. And actually, if you go to the Marion County website, it's mcrecycles.com. I believe January 3rd is the deadline for the next Master Recycler class. But it's a great way to get involved. It's a great way to understand the system, all components. It's a beautiful way to, again, to give back. Quite frankly, learn what you can do to reduce, reuse, and then recycle as well.
Yeah, I actually took the program last year, and it was great. Not only do you sit in the classroom and learn, but you interact with other people with ideas, and then you actually you get to go out and tour. And one of the places we got to tour, you know, Darby was here just before you were, was we got to go and actually tour the Covanta plant, see it, how it operates. Darby brings some really good donuts on Saturday morning. We appreciate.
I will take note of that.
Appreciated that too, but it takes you out there. It takes you up to the ash. It takes you to the transfer stations. We went to a place where they taught you how to compost, worm composting. So there's a lot of really good things that were exciting in that. Now, to become a master recycler, you got to take the class, but then you got to give 30 hours back, volunteering, teaching, and educating. So I'm kind of weak on that. I've only done, I think, 3 hours or so at the fair, and I've got another schedule coming up for 4 hours at the Home Builders. But to give back like that, it's a really exciting program.
There are lots of opportunities to give back. And again, you mentioned it, everything from the fair to there's just numerous opportunities. And again, we've got this great infrastructure. We've got this great community. And again, from the hauling to the material recovery facility, to the source separated programs with Garton Services and the likes, and then ultimately the ultimate material that we generate that would have gone to a landfill, we're able to burn for energy, and again create enough power for a city the size of Woodburn. That's spectacular.
Great. So the in the master's recycling class, there's the 3 R's. There's the reduce, there's the recycle, and there's the reuse. We've talked quite a bit about the recycling here. Can you give us any information that would be good for the listeners about the other 2 R's, the reduction or the reuse?
Absolutely. Well, a prime example is the food. Again, one of the things that we're looking at in the Save the Food campaign is reducing the amount of food. Again, as I mentioned, about 40% goes uneaten. 20% of our current waste stream is still food. So that's one of the things by shopping smarter is just something we can do immediately. One of the things, again, if you think about is some of the things that we purchase. Think about those little things that you order, the little widget that is overpackaged. I'll just say some of the big online deliveries. You get something that's overpackaged and a lot of material there. So shopping smarter that way also.
Yeah, it's great. One of the things that I've asked my wife, and we've done it, is, you know, the Keurig little containers in coffee.
Oh, yes.
So we went out and bought one of the individual filters where you put your own coffee in there instead of doing the Keurig. So that's our way of trying to reduce. There's a lot of other ways we can do that. But
well, Commissioner, sounds like you're doing a great job.
Thank you for being here today, and thank you for the service that you do in this area for our community and our citizens.
Well, it's a great community, great citizens, and thank you so much for having me here today.
Good. Well, this concludes our program on solid waste management in Marion County, and I hope you've learned that we have probably the best, if not one of the best, in the United States, and we compete with even Canada and Europe in some of the things that we do here. And so you can be proud of how we handle solid waste in Marion County. Thanks for watching today.